We are going to another chapter or unit. It's for the first year BA. We are going to deal with the Mahabharata, the story of Mahabharata, what has happened there, what's the importance of this great. It's a big epic, Mahabharata. There are two things, Ramayana and Mahabharata. So Ramayana is forming part of that. That is two things. That is we have also that is coming much later. That is the Bhagavad Gita, which is forming part of Mahabharata. It's a separate section, but we'll have a detailed study about the Bhagavad Gita. Now, Mahabharata is the story of the great war which has happened between two groups, and those two groups are the Kauravas and Pandavas. So these were cousins, that means sons of two brothers, that is Pandu and Dhritarashtra. They were brothers and their sons. So Pandu had 5 sons and Dhritarashtra had 100 sons. The whole picture, if you want to know how it has happened, is this way. Dhritarashtra was born blind. He was the elder, so he would inherit the kingdom. But there was a seer who said, a blind man cannot be a king. He will not be able to see his the people or the subjects, and then he will not be able to see them, and therefore that is a negative mark for a person to be a king. So therefore the kingship passes to the younger one, that is Pandu. So Pandu became the king. Dhritarashtra, as per the regulation, he was the rightful heir to the kingdom. And because of this defect, that he was born blind, he could not be the king, and therefore as Pandu is taking, that is the younger one, becoming the king, and then definitely the kingship will be handed over to his progenies or his sons. So Pandu had 5 sons and Dhritarashtra had 100 sons. So there is a lot of rivalry between these two groups. All of them were brought up together, they lived together and doing everything, learning, fight, to the archery and also the method of war, everything under the same teacher. They were living together, but right from the start there is a lot of rivalry. The elder one, that is Duryodhana, among the Kauravas, he couldn't stomach the 5 of the sons of Pandu. Pandu dies earlier, that means in a very younger age, in the sense he had a curse received from one of the sages, that because of some misdeeds of his, he was given a curse that if ever he attempts to have sexual intercourse, then he would die instantly. So all the sons he has got, it is from different gods or intervention of different gods. And since this curse was there, Pandu did not minding of this curse. He indulged in sexual intercourse and instantly he was dead. And therefore again the kingship has come to the blind Dhritarashtra, and he was managing with some help of his own persons. Now, since this has happened, that means the rightful heir would be Pandu's sons. And since Pandu died earlier, all these 5 sons also came to the care of the elder brother, that is their uncle, according for the sons of Pandu, so was uncle. So they were cousins, both the Kauravas and Pandavas. And because of this rivalry between this, it was going on right from the beginning. And Duryodhana with his uncle, they are scheming number of ways in order to eliminate these 5 sons of Pandu. So once they are eliminated, what's the advantage? Then only Kauravas are there and they will be able to live on. So there would be anyone demanding for the kingship of Hastinapura. So like that was the idea. Somehow they wanted to eliminate. But as we would see that since they were reared by different gods and supported by them, every time there was someone to intervene and saving them. So none of the scheming worked. So always, so whole entire Mahabharata story is one of a lot of plots and subplots, so many characters that is coming into play. And that's one aspect, is that we will be able to identify ourselves with one or the other characters in the entire Mahabharata story. So many persons you will find coming into the play. And the focus is given to these 2 groups, Kauravas and Pandavas. Pandavas are said to be the people who are not given the due right, and Kauravas very tricky ones, the scheming ones, and they would go to any extent of scheming and destroying and trying to keep the not giving the due justice to the bereaved party or the party which is in question. So in nutshell, briefly the story is that, and what happens, one of the sons of Pandu, especially Yudhishthira, he had a weakness in playing the dice game. So that was his weakness, and he would forget everything about himself once he joins the game. He will pawn away everything. The sense, or he will give away. He will put bet, and himself and everybody, all were pawned away, or they were cheated off. Kauravas are very tricky ones, and they would really manipulate the entire game and would take away everything, including all the sons of Pandu, their wife, everything. And they were sent in exile. For how many? 12 long years in exile, and plus 1 year they have to live unknown. That is among the people themselves, but they should not be recognized. So if they are found out, then they have to start another 12 years of in the forest life or Kananavasa, and then 1 year they have to live again. So this was very cleverly designed, thinking that they will never be able to come back to the kingdom or claim the kingdom. So 12 years you will live in the forest or in exile, and 1 year you have to live among the people unrecognized by anybody. Only then, at the end of 13th year, they will be able to come and claim the kingship. So that was the condition which was placed, because they lost the dice game. Yudhishthira was challenged, and he fell a prey to the scheming of the Kauravas, and he lost everything. Brothers, the wife, the kingdom, everything, they had to go in exile. And the 12 long years in the forest, and then 1 year they have to live among the people unrecognized. If they are recognized, then again starts another long 12 years of this life, and 1 year of living incognito, unknown to anybody. And the story begins when the 12 years are over. 1 year they lived unrecognized among the people, and at the end of 13th year, the Pandavas coming and claiming the kingdom. Of course, Kauravas, they do not want to share with the kingdom with Pandavas. They wanted to keep them away. And therefore, a lot of negotiations taking place. Finally, Pandavas will say, we don't want that kingdom, at least give us enough place just to set our food. That much land is enough for us. A dwelling just enough for us to make a house and dwell there. Nothing was, no compromise was met upon. Or Kauravas did not want Pandavas around them, or neither in the kingdom. So they wanted them to be totally away from, only in the exile. They should not be appearing anywhere. So when all the negotiations failed, then what else is left now? Only a war, that is to settle by the war. That was the only thing that was left. So it is called also just war. How far that is true, or how can that just is justifiable, it's a question. However, in order to restore the claims of the just ones, that was the only way to settle it. And therefore the entire, that is the Mahabharata, the whole Bharata was divided into two. One will take the side of Kauravas and another will take the side of Pandavas. The entire kingdoms. So you must know that at that time there was no one leadership. So small petty kingdoms and kings and their own territories. And what would be the king's pastime? They will go on conquering the neighboring land. So that was the only way of extending their kingdom. So the more powerful ones will have more area, and less powerful one will have to be satisfied with a smaller kingdom. And like that, the whole of Bharata was divided into smaller units or princely states, wherein a small king or kingship and kingdom they were. So once the Mahabharata war was declared, then they had to take sides, either by the side of Kauravas or by the side of the Pandavas. So both these groups were cousins by birth and relationship, and now they have to fight to prove their or to get back what is just for them. So it ended up into that. There was no other way of settling, and therefore every prince or the kings and princes, they were divided and joined either this side or right side or left side, either by the Kauravas or by the Pandavas. So entire, and now the war is about to take place. It is at this time we come across that of the Bhagavad Gita. What happens? At the side of the Pandava, there are 5 great heroes are there. And one of them is Arjuna, the greatest warrior or the archer. And nobody would be able to stand up to him. But Arjuna, looking at the other side, that is arrayed for war, he looks at them and sees all of them, his own kith and kin, relations, own cousins, with whom he has grown up, the teachers, all of them he knew. Now when he thinks that I have to kill all of them in order to win back or to get the kingdom, he says, no, I'm not going to fight. There's no use in this. Or getting back the kingdom after killing all of them, my own relations. What is the meaning of that? Devoid of them, what more happiness, joy is there in a kingdom? Therefore he says, no, I am laying down my arms, I will go back to the forest. That is better for me. I don't want anything. So it is at that time Krishna is trying to bring up his spirit, or trying to give him the advice, Gita-upadesha. So there we find that it is going to be, or why he has to fight, on what ground he has to, or what is right, so he has to restore that. So that is another part of the story, that is the Bhagavad Gita. So here at this stage there, the fight, and it is taking place, and for 18 days the fight is going to be, and a great massacre has happened. The victory finally, Krishna was fighting on the side of the Pandavas, and his army, he was also one of the princes at that time, and his army, what the Kauravas wanted was that the army of Krishna, and Krishna himself was the charioteer of Pandavas, and then he was guiding them in their war. So finally Pandavas win, but to what price? It's a big bloodshed. So that is the story of Mahabharata in a nutshell. So we can say, in some ways, the entire story of Mahabharata is an explanation of how our world, the world of Kali Yuga, came into being and how things got to be bad as they are. The Ramayana has its share of its suffering and even betrayal, but nothing to match the relentless and hatred and vengeance of Mahabharata. So right from the beginning we will see the scheming, the plotting, trying to eliminate one group by the other. The culmination of Mahabharata is the battle of Kurukshetra, when two bands of brothers, the Pandavas and the Kauravas, the sons of two brothers and thus cousins to one another, fight each other to death, brutality and cruelly, until the entire race is almost wiped out. So what is the end of the war? The entire Kauravas are wiped out. Now only Pandavas are there. So the war, once the war took place. The five sons of Pandu, the Pandavas, are the heroes of the story. The eldest is King Yudhishthira. Next is Bhima, an enormously strong fighter with equally enormous appetite. After Bhima is Arjuna, the greatest of the warriors and also the companion of Krishna. The last two are twins, Nagula and Sahadeva. These five brothers share one wife, Draupadi. She becomes the wife of all five of them by accident. And how that, so once when they go on a hunting and they get this prize, and when they come back they want to surprise their mother Kunti Devi, and they come and tell that we have got something very special today, and Kunti Devi, without seeing anything, tells them, you share it among all equally. So that's how Panchali, or that's Draupadi, becomes the wife of all the five sons of Pandu. The enemies of Pandavas are Kauravas, who are the sons of Pandu's brother Dhritarashtra. So Pandu's own brother is Dhritarashtra. Although Dhritarashtra is still alive, he cannot manage to restrain his son Duryodhana, who bitterly resents the achievements of his cousins, the Pandavas. Duryodhana arranges his maternal uncle to challenge Yudhishthira to a game of dice. And Yudhishthira gambles everything away, even himself. The Pandavas have to go into exile, but when they return, they engage the Kauravas in battle. Krishna fights on the side of Pandavas and serves as Arjuna's charioteer. The famous song of the Lord, the Bhagavad Gita, is actually a book within the Mahabharata as the battle of Kurukshetra begins. When Arjuna faces his cousins on the field of battle, he despairs and sinks down, unable to fight. The Bhagavad Gita contains the words that Krishna spoke to Arjuna at that moment. So that is the side story. The main thing is that once they were sent into exile and they complete the period of exile and they return and claim back the kingdom, which Kauravas will not, or they are not willing to give to Pandavas the right to them. And Dhritarashtra is still alive, but he has no control over his own sons, especially the Duryodhana, the eldest one. He is the one most of the time scheming and plotting in order to keep the others away. The Pandavas do win the battle. Duryodhana is killed and the Kaurava armies are wiped out, but it is hardly a happy ending. Yudhishthira becomes king, but the world is forever changed by the battles of violence. If you are familiar with the Iliad, that is Iliad, you might remember how the epic ends with the funeral of Trojan hero Hector, a moment which is utterly bleak and sad. The same is true of Mahabharata. There are many truths that are learned in the end, but the victory, such as it is, comes at a terrible price. So that's what we, in a nutshell, what we can say about the story of Mahabharata. Further, we can say the innermost narrative kernel of Mahabharata tells the story of two sets of paternal first cousins, the 5 sons of the deceased King Pandu, the 5 Pandavas, and the 100 sons of the King Dhritarashtra, the 100 sons of Dhritarashtra. So these are the two groups, the Pandavas and Kauravas. The story of Mahabharata, and these are the prominent figures here, the two paternal cousins of 2 brothers, that is Pandu and Dhritarashtra. These two groups became rivals and opposed each other in war for possession of the ancestral Bharata kingdom, which is the capital in the city of elephant, Hastinapura, on the Ganga river in the north central India. What is dramatically interesting within the symbol opposition is the large number of individual agendas the many characters pursue, and the numerous personal conflicts, ethical puzzles, subplots, and plot twists that give the story a strikingly powerful development. So it is written in a big volume, Mahabharata, and it is so great that is what is happening. The war maybe it's very short, they'll say 18 days of war, but the story that's being developed, that's leading to the culmination, that is, it has got so many agendas, the individual agendas the many characters pursue, and the numerous personal conflicts, ethical puzzles, subplots, and plot twists that give the story a strikingly powerful development. So this is what we see in the Mahabharata. The 5 sons of Pandu were actually fathered by 5 gods. Reason, sex was mortally dangerous for Pandu because of a curse. And these heroes were assisted throughout the story by various gods, seers and Brahmins, including the seer Krishna Daipaniya Vyasa, who later became the author of the epic poem telling the whole story, or the whole of his story, who was also their actual grandfather. He had engendered Pandu and the blind Dhritarashtra upon their normal father's widows in order to persevere the lineage. So this was one of the custom that was followed. So if the person or the man dies without any progeny, then supposed to keep up that progeny, the wife has to be fathered by someone else to bring up the sons. The 100 Dhritarashtras, on the other hand, had a grotesque demoniac birth and are said more than once in the text to be human incarnations of the demon, who are the perpetual enemies of gods. The most dramatic figure of the entire Mahabharata was, however, is Krishna, the son of Vasudeva, the tribe of Antaka. Krishna is located in the city of Dwaraka in the far west near the ocean. So the whole story is about the rivalry between the two groups, that is of the sons of Pandu and sons of Dhritarashtra. Sons of Pandu, Pancha Pandavas, 5 of them. Sons of Dhritarashtra, 100 sons of Dhritarashtra, known as the Kauravas and the Pandavas. And the most dramatic figure in the whole of Mahabharata is Krishna himself. The Mahabharata is Krishna, son of Vasudeva, of the tribe of Antaka, Vrishnis, located in the city of Dwaraka in the far west near the ocean. His name thus Krishna Vasudeva. But he also a human instantiation of the supreme God Vasudeva Narayana. Vishnu descended to the earth in human form to rescue law, good deeds and right, virtue and justice. All these words refer to different facets of dharma in the form of holding between the ethical quality of an action and the quality of its future fruits for the doer. Krishna Vasudeva was also a cousin to both Bharata parties, but he was a friend and advisor to the Pandavas, became the brother-in-law of Arjuna Pandava, and served as Arjuna's mentor and the charioteer of the great war. Krishna Vasudeva is portrayed several times as eager to see the purgative war occur, and in many ways the Pandavas were his human instruments in fulfilling that end. So we can see that the incarnation of God normally takes place when the equilibrium is broken, adharma is more dominant than dharma, then God seems to incarnate to restore back the rhythm which was already, or the equilibrium in the whole world. So we have the saying that Satyameva Jayate, the victory is, that means the truth will be victorious at the end. So in order to restore back that, so Krishna has taken an avatara, and thus he becomes also part of this battle, whereas also directly he doesn't involve, but he is using the human medium of the Pandavas to fulfill that end of restoring the real, that is restoring justice in the world, or the equilibrium in the world. That's what we get in the story of Mahabharata.